As the years have gone by, each season there's bad calls, missed strikes, things like that. But it seems that it progressively gets worse and worse as the years go by, even though they're implementing more of the robotic umpire and stuff like that.
Well, they're testing robotic umpires. They have not implemented any kind of robotic umpires yet.
Right. But they're testing it pretty much in the minors, I think.
I think so.
Definitely low, double, and triple. All 3 levels, I'm guessing.
I imagine it's at least in triple.
At least in triple. Okay.
Or at least in double. I don't know. Let's find out. Well, keep talking.
Okay. Well, one of the better-known pitchers in MLB, Max Scherzer, recently was kind of asked for his 2 cents in an interview regarding the current crop of umpiring, calls, quality, and stuff like that. And he kind of threw out the idea that he believes that the umpires should start to be kind of, evaluated and ranked based upon, the quality of their calls, their accuracy of, where the strike zone is, trying to keep it consistent, making sure that is a ball, is a strike. Did a batter end up swinging and, fully extending himself? And based upon that, sort of keeping a running database of umpires and sort of ranking them. And based upon, I'm guessing, the end of the season totals, whatever their average is, if they meet a certain threshold, they stay in the majors. If they are below that, possibly going ahead and moving them down to the minors. And then I would imagine then to replace them, they kind of have a system in, I would say, probably AAA to move a couple of those AAA umpires up into the majors, sort of to keep this kind of motion in terms of, trying to say, hey, if you're going to be umpiring and calling, pitches at a major league level, your consistency and quality of your calls should be major league quality. So, it's interesting to see that because, like here in the article, everybody's favorite umpire, Angel Hernandez, of course, who's always in discussion every single season, is definitely one of those kind of guys that would be on, not even on the hot seat anymore. I'd say he's already, they're not even bothering to put him on the hot seat. They're like, just send him down to AAA. But I think that the major problem of this issue would end up being the umpires union, which would more than likely end up having a say in this matter. And not really be down for it at all.
Not more than likely, they absolutely would. In this, even this article says we will never live in a world where umpires are relegated to the minor leagues. Yeah, like it's kind of Scherzer talking shit the way he usually does. One thing that I find strange though in this article that's lamenting how bad the strike zone has been and how I shouldn't say that, in certain instances how bad the strike zone calls have been, but this author Hubs mentions that I tend to lean against a fully automated robotic strike zone. I agree with Scherzer that the human aspect of an umpire is necessary for the game. Okay, well then what do you want? The human aspect of baseball are the mistakes, and that's across the board. That's with the players, that's with the wind, that's with the umpires. I mean, that's one of the more interesting aspects where it is so subjective a lot of the time, and there are situations where a controversial call gets made on the field, they go and look at the replay, and that controversial call stands because there's nothing that they can find to overturn it. There's no clear evidence that the call is wrong, but that doesn't mean the call is right. And to follow up, yeah, AAA started using robot umpires in 2023.
Okay.
So the thing is, it's sort of like, well, what do you want? Do you want the human aspect of an umpire that can make mistakes, and that's just what you have to live with, and the subjectivity of baseball is ingrained in the game? Or do you want it to be, to the letter of the law, ruled by computers and be like a video game, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of the frustration on the fans' part, like us, is that, we're watching, the human aspect, the umpire calling, what is and what isn't in, or, kind of brushing the strike zone. And whenever you watch it on TV, they've always got the little like superimposed strike zone for the batters and stuff. And when you see where the ball ends up ending in the pitcher's glove, the catcher's glove, which a lot of times, they try to manipulate based upon, where they're able to, pull the ball,
that's the other part
kind of like stretch it.
That's the other part of it, framing. That's another part of baseball being subjective and weird.
So look at Mitch Garver last year, Twins catcher, bigger build, doing this, and look at all the hitters getting so frustrated because he is snatching balls from low in the zone and just bringing them up. He doesn't go down to grab them first and then back up. He just goes right up, and the ump's like, okay, yeah, cool. I saw that pitch the entire way. Went right into your glove. Must be a strike. And the hitters are just getting frustrated. As long as you have human umpires, you can trick them.
There's people who argued, like when we had Wilson Contreras was our catcher, and he got criticized constantly by fans for not being good at framing, which is basically saying stealing strikes because he tricks the umpire into thinking that it was well in the strike zone. So it's like you've got an entire aspect of the game that's about tricking the umpire, and then people are mad that when umpires get tricked. you know?
Yeah, but whenever they have they show the strike zone after the pitch, and there are pitches that are clearly like a good inch and a half, even two, off the strike zone, and then they're getting called for, strikes, and you're just like, I don't know what these guys are looking at, quite frankly, a lot of times.
Infamously, Angel Hernandez is the guy that is always pointed to as being the worst umpire, and it's like his legacy. It's not just one season. It's not just one game. It's
his whole career. It's his whole in the majors.
Career, to the point where famously he sued
メジャーリーグベースボール
for never being allowed to participate in a World Series game, and he was in court. The
メジャーリーグベースボール
was like, he's not good enough to ump. He misses too many calls, and we have statistical proof of this, and therefore we don't trust him with a game. And then won, and Angel Hernandez lost, and then continues to work as an umpire. I mean, how humiliating is that? I would have quit and hid with my tail between my legs ever since.
Yeah, although I believe, I need you to probably back me up with some Google searching, but I believe that the minimum for an umpire, I think, currently is around like 300,000 or something. It's a good chunk of change. It's at least $250,000, I think.
That would be very impressive. And if you can get started at 120,000 per year,
okay, 120,000
can climb to as much as 350,000.
Okay,
for an experienced
but I mean, they're
umpire.
pulling in six figures.
Yes,
that's nothing bad. I mean, yeah, that's probably why Angel Hernandez is like,
I'll just continue
I'll take
sucking.
The money.
Plus, you have a union to protect you.
Right. Yeah.
They also receive travel expenses, a per diem for meals, and a benefits package. So,
wow. So, Brendan,
the minimum
make a couple of phone calls tonight.
I wouldn't want to do that job though. I don't want to be responsible for saying, for like there was that controversial call with the Cubs a few games ago, where it was the final out. And it was a call at the plate, home plate. It was a relay throw that I remember sending it to you, and they challenged it. And it was one of those situations where the first time I watched the challenge, I thought he was safe.
In the air, left field, Happ is there, makes the catch. Throw to the plate, tag, out at the plate. Oh boy!
But then I watched it in super slow motion. It's like a frame at a time. And suddenly I was like, oh, we did get him.
His hand pops up a little bit, right?
But it's with the benefit of going and seeing where the hand is and where the foot is and where the tag is. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, so like you're asking these people to do superhuman things. So
Yeah.
I don't
and
want to
then-
be responsible for that.
Yeah, and if you're the team where the call doesn't go your way, then it's pretty deflating of an end to a game of some sort. Because I've seen a lot of other sports, where the call, like, there's a flag on the play, or there's a call that's it's just like, and it just takes the air out of the room.
Hey, there's always the thing about like sports fans get all aggressive and grumpy and like can be mean at the end of a game that is lost. And I don't think I've ever been mean or like let it completely ruin my night. But there are times where I've been home drinking and watching a baseball game that like is a nail biter and goes into like if you're in 12 innings and it ends in like a very deflating way. It's like, yeah, it's gonna ruin your night. Like it's not like you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's like seeing a really depressing movie and then you're expected to be very like chipper afterwards.
Yeah.
If my team loses, I'll be mean all night. If you tell me to relax, we'll get in a fight.
The Steve Bartman game, for myself, was one of those experiences where I got upset, not against Bartman. I was kind of upset at Moises Alou because when I'd watched that ball go foul into Bartman's hands, and I was kind of looking at it going like, Alou was just like complaining and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, you never would have caught that ball, even if you had like somehow superhumanly jumped and gotten the ball. I was more upset at him, but even more so at Dusty Baker, because Baker left. Who was it? I think it was Mark Pryor was pitching maybe that game. Mm-hmm. And Pryor was just let a bunch of like runners on base and a couple of runs scored, and Baker just sat in the dugout the whole time without even like wanting to walk up to the mound. I'm like, that's my biggest issue with that game afterwards, because it was all downhill afterward. Like the Bartman foul ball was just like, who cares?
That was the Bartman thing was a very embarrassing situation that frankly could have happened to any World titleless team that had been historically titleless and was kind of riding the cusp of potentially having a shot at it. And so that frustration of losing that game was just zeroed in on that one guy, because the players didn't want the responsibility, the coach didn't want the manager didn't want the responsibility, the owners didn't want the responsibility, and all the fans needed somebody to point at. And the one schmuck who did what any other fan would do in that situation. And people do it all the time. Yeah. There are like games days ago where somewhat fan interference was a thing. Yeah. I never want to be that close to I never want to be right there next to the players.
And I'm also somebody, if I'm at a ball game, it's like I always keep my eyes open as to what's going on at home plate, because it's like, all the stories about the foul balls just randomly flying, and people go to the games, they don't even pay attention to what's going on, and then they get plunked with a foul ball, and they're like, oh, how did this happen? Oh my God. And it's like, pay attention. It's like, why are you even here? This isn't a social outing. I know you're here as a corporate thing, but
this isn't a social outing. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Alex is like everyone. You're like me going to a movie where I'm like, don't talk to me. I don't want to hear any chewing. I don't want to hear any drinking. I don't want to hear anything. I want dead silence. Movie, then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
You do the same thing at baseball games.
I don't want somebody to
everybody shut up. I'm watching a baseball game.
I don't want somebody to turn to me at the end of the game and say, "So, what you think about it?"
So while we're talking about our the Steve Bartman incident, I feel like we might as well revisit it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was Pryor. Okay, I was right.
Yep, I was going to say because, and the other thing is that player really who was making the catch. What was his name?
Moises Alou.
He needed to
chill the fuck out.
Well, he also needed to be like. This guy didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Him in particular needed to be the guy to be like, fans, I wasn't going to make that catch anyway. I know you guys need a target. I know you guys are frustrated, and I let you down. The team let you down. But you need that. You need the fucking team to step up to protect this guy.
He was brought in, and he was, the veteran power hitter for, it's like, as a veteran player, you can't lose your head, Schwarbs.
Right. So let's see. Here we go.
Hey, Radio Shack.
Again in the air, down the left field line. Alou reaching into the stands and couldn't get it, and he's livid with a fan.
One, two, at least three other people.
I like the guy over there in the sweater.
1, 2, 3. Is that where's Bartman?
Bartman is like hidden back there. He's like between these two guys, I think.
Oh, so he's like under here. So
Yeah,
1, 2,
something
3,
like
4 and a half. This is a half. This guy would have reached if it was a little bit closer. So there's a ton of people.
Yeah.
And no guy here was like, whenever there's any of these games going on and the ball's flying into foul territory, you never see one guy like hold everyone back, being like, "No, it might be fair, everybody."
They did that the next game though. At Wrigley.
Did they really?
Everybody was going like this every time we went to the stands.
Of course, nobody wanted to get lynched. Jesus. There are a lot. Okay, so there he is. Man.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? In social media times, this guy probably, he wasn't catching that. It doesn't even touch Bartman. Oh yeah, it does. No, yeah, it hits his. If Bartman would have caught that, it might have been clearer. But but they had replay on the news. Why didn't every news network show this? I don't remember this very well.
I think everybody was just so wrapped up into the whole thing that they were just calling for blood.
I wasn't
at that point.
I wasn't really watching baseball until 2008, 2010. 2012, really.
I remember, I remember everybody like the next day at class in college was like talking about this thing. I'm like, I was just like, the whole time I'm just sitting there going like, Baker didn't walk up prior on the, because I was like, did nobody notice what happened the remainder of the, like this was just like a random run-of-the-mill fly ball, nobody cares and stuff. And I honestly, in that series, that was the NLCS. Going into the playoffs that year, I was more concerned about our chances against Atlanta than against Florida, because I feel like we would have easily handled Florida. But after that particular Bartman game, like the Cubs were just like collapsing. They were just like, well, we're just going to blame our crappy performance on the field by this one random run-the-mill foul ball.
Yeah. Listen to this.
But it's all good now. I have my World Series T-shirt, and you probably do too. So
Bartman has his World Series ring. So
yeah.
But listen to this. In July 2008, Bartman was offered $25,000 to autograph a picture of himself at the National Sports Convention in Rosemont, an offer he refused. He declined to appear as a VIP in Wrigley Field. In 2011, 8 years after the incident, he declined to appear in an ESPN documentary and declined a six-figure offer to appear in a Super Bowl commercial.
Just leave the dude alone.
Yeah.
Just I don't understand why people are constantly trying to get Bartman to do stuff. Just leave him alone. I mean, I can't disagree with his decision so far. I mean, the guy's life was pretty much ruined, and I think there was a 30 for 30, some ESPN documentary or something about the whole the incident, but it was more interesting to see the after effects immediately following that particular game, and just how the dude was like, he turned into like the John Wilkes Booth of the baseball universe. Like everybody was out for his blood, practically. Even Expos fans, you're just like, how?